as in both tied as the bridesmaids for the season. Both of them tied on the most podiums of the season, with Vince in 5th, who of course won back in the second round. Lolly Nova goes 6th with Riccio 3 and 7th. Fabio's 8th. Safso, of course, season 1 champion, looking for an emphatic return, you could say, if I want to use that as a vowel and a noun. And Concept 7, after his podium last time out, lines up in 10th place, Tom.
Yeah, taking a massive jump up the standings onto 40 points. Member of a bit of a club there with Fabio and Safso on the 40s. I think the battle at the front is going to be interesting. Meraki comes off a terrible race last week in Mexico. Alex Gillen, the trade-off, comes into this from back-to-back victories. Monaco a few weeks ago before the break, and then Mexico last week as well. Tim Monic, consistent as ever, number of podium finishes. He should be strong around this circuit as well. Was the track that he actually wanted to race at rather than his home venue of Albert Park. So I think the championship could very much see a few spins and a few twists in the next couple of hours.
Absolutely. And let's have a look down the other side of the table as well. Formula Kai lines up in 11th. GB, of course, announcing his full-time retirement from the F1 Creator Series. I'm sure we will see him back at some point in time. Matt 212 in lucky 13th. Scotty Designs, by the way, again, having a fantastic season in the Rebel, partnered alongside Chappers for this afternoon's endeavours. Tukey is not racing this afternoon. They're away on some hollybobs, so I've been told, with Karim 70 in 17th place. That's a bit of a tongue twister for all you folks at home. Adam Sanson has somehow ended up in a McLaren down in 18th place, with Scott Taylor also taking an early shower from the season. Matty D13 down in 20th place. That's how your driver's standings look as we head in towards the Qatar Grand Prix. I think it's going to be absolutely thrilling, and I don't think it's going to be that way when we end out, Carl.
I don't think so either. I think there's a couple of key drivers to look out for. By the way, if any of you were worried, per se, that the old guard, the general fast few, weren't going to be at the top of the tree, think again. Look at the top 4. Alex Gillen, Tim at Marduk, Rasin Chai, Meraki. They are the top of the tree at the moment. But we could see that change once again. I want to keep an eye on Concept 7, actually. Use the McLaren to great effect in Mexico City, of course. And we head over to the Dusty Desert. He's in the Ferrari. So that could be interesting. Both McLaren drivers, Matt 212, Adam Sanderson. There is a great opportunity once again for someone to score a scintillating result tonight.
There absolutely is. And Tom, again, we've had a flurry of different results. I think it's something that I said right at the start of the season. We're going to see maybe in qualifying the faster cars be the more powerful ones, but actually that endurance aspect that comes in as part of a 100% race, the old guard are going to be the ones to come back through the field.
I think that's what makes Concept 7's podium last week even more impressive. He was so consistent, even when Alex Gillen was, chawing at the rear end of that car. Even when Scott Taylor was flying past with the use of battery as well. Didn't lose his head, came through to take that second. Yes, we were 5 laps short at the end, but did a very good job. And it also, the trade-off of that and the double edge of the sword is that McLaren, we saw how strong it is as well. And that puts pressure on Adam Sanderson and Matt 212. Matt 212, a notable bottle job in the Creator Series, so we'll see how he can deal with the pressure being in the best car. Adam Sanderson as well, great opportunity to get a very decent whack of points.
Absolutely. It's not going to end that way, and I'm certainly sure we're going to see many quarrels across the way. But we're going to throw over to qualifying, everybody. I'll see you very soon and hand you to the very capable hands of Carl Baranek and Tom Wilkinson.
Thank you very much, TK. Welcome to the Losail circuit, ladies and gentlemen. Under the floodlights. But who will shine under the spotlight as we quench our qualifying thirst? Already cars fleeing out of the pit lane. We see Safso making his way out, of course. I'm Carl Baranek. I was in a Tom and Tom sandwich as I try and navigate you through the commentary. But alongside me, of course, Tom Wilkinson. We're going to take you through now what is 17 minutes of qualifying action.
Yes, we are indeed. Remember, everybody, if you're new to the Creator Series, we say it every week. First of all, where have you been? That is very poor from yourselves. But inside the first 6 minutes of our 80-minute qualifying session, a championship point is handed out to the driver that sets the fastest lap on the green stripe intermediate tyres. Even if, as it is here in Qatar, the track is bone dry. So there is an extra championship point on offer, which is why it can be so crucial. We know how close it is in the championship, just 6 points separating Meraki and Alex Gillen. Come season's end, which isn't too far away now, that extra point could be very vital.
For sure it could be. There's a bit of an art to doing an intermediate pole lap. You've, of course, got to factor in the fact it isn't the correct compound. You've got less grip into both the braking zones and mid-corner. You're sort of doing a drifting act all the way through the lap. As we see a little fun fact from Safso, who was 5 from Hogwarts and now in witness protection. That is not ideal, and for legal reasons, we can't say that name. Whoever's put that graphic up has been taken straight to Azkaban. But the point is, that there for you, ladies and gentlemen, is our PS1 Lord and Saviour himself as he crosses the line to begin our first intermediate pole of the day here, Tom.
Season 1 chap, let's not forget as well, charging down into turn number 1. The tyres should be okay at this stage, but with the twists and turns of this Losail circuit, those front tyres in particular, the temperature is going to start to skyrocket and definitely start screaming for a little bit of mercy. Looked a little bit pedestrian there through 2 and 3. And then you've got to chuck it in to the start of the middle sector. Double right-hander, total commitment required, of course, and still looks fairly pedestrian. This has to be said for Safso.
Yeah, very conservative with the curbs as well. You can abuse the track limits quite a lot. There is space to do so, but Safso keeping it very cool and composed. Currently in witness protection, but looking to steal a march on the rest. You get over to this long winding right-hander. You're using all of the exit curb on that left-hand side. Cut the right as much as you can, and then you're braking at the access road on the right. Trying to use every single ounce and nanometer of track limit available to you, but again, just keeping it composed. He's left it in none, and I suspect here, as he's set to purple sector 2, because, well, he's the only one to have done so, but I suspect he'll probably be charging up, getting used to the intermediate conditions, and going again as he goes wide. But that's a bit of a double-edged sword, because, of course, he's used the best of his tyres here.
And of course the tyre temperatures are going to be slightly higher than they were, say, when you get out of the pits, for example. So that will make that second lap just a little bit harder, but trying to feel his way around the circuit, at least for this first attempt. Safso will cut the beam with a 27.9. You would imagine that a lot of drivers are going to eclipse that. Not 100% sure how many are out there on the green stripe intermediate tyres. 3 drivers not out there at all. Concept 7, Gwatz and Adam Sanderson still in the pits. Lenz the Goat has decided to be away with the inters and gone straight onto the soft tyres. 25 flat, but not the most competitive time I've ever seen, I have to say.
Indeedy not. On board one of the Ferraris as Lolinova goes to a 26.2. I believe that is an intermediate lap from the V-Carb driver. Excellent lap time for him. But it's Riccio 3 on the soft tyres. There's your tyre situation. A myriad of drivers on the green stripe intermediate tyres. Got so many things to consider. Riccio 3 has thrown caution to the wind and looks to paint the town red, or in this case purple. Team radio from Mr. Tiamat Marduk, who doesn't know what to expect on the intermediate compound of tyres. Riccio 3, though, has absolutely blitzed provisional pole at the moment. A 21.8, Matt 2-on-2, not far behind at all in his McLaren car. Meraki can't get close to intermediate's pole, though. Plenty of pickers, though, as they make their way through the last corner of the track. That guy Vince about to cross the line to set his first intermediate lap, and still, no one can beat Lolinova.
First chance really to see the true runners and riders. Razin Chai just a 10th down on Lolinova, but it's still the Italian stallion holding the intermediate pole time at the moment. And yeah, 25 milliseconds separating the Ferrari and the McLaren at the sharp end of the field. Tiamat Marduk said he wasn't 100% sure what the intermediate tyres would give him on this run, how much he would dearly love not just to beat his teammate, an old championship rival Meraki, in this intermediate race, but to get that extra championship point and take one singular step closer to the Season 4 champion in the standings. Coning the beam now. It doesn't look the most competitive, and 7/10 down, our two-time champion is not going to be totally enamoured by that. Neither will Alex Gillen, having a bit of a run in with an Aston Martin through the final corner.
Not ideal whatsoever as he peels into the pit lane, completely bails out of it, and I do not blame him. I couldn't tell if that was... It wasn't emphatic, I don't think, and indeed it wasn't. It looks to be. It was Lenz the Goat that impeded our two-time champion, Mr. Alex Gillen. Not ideal whatsoever as he looks to try and just improve a little bit on a 25.0. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I believe, since nobody else is out there on the intermediates and about to cross the line, the Inter's point goes to the Italian stallion, being wheeled into the garage, and probably quite gleeful too.
Very, very nice indeed. Just over a 10th in his back pocket ahead of the Season 5 champion, Lolinova, who has had, has to be said, a bit of an up and down season, a bit of an up and down past couple of seasons. Hasn't been at his brilliant best on the F1 25 game. Getting that extra point, which will give him a lovely boost of confidence, you would imagine, going into the second half, the back end of this qualifying session. Second last week, Concept 7, pole sitter, of course. He has got a McLaren right in front of him as we head through 4 and 5. Chuck it in as best as you possibly can. I'm going to try and read this. Got a podium on his 5th Creator Series appearance. Adam Sanderson, this is a bit of a throw him under the bus, has done 45 races in the Creator Series and is still yet to finish on the podium.
An unenviable statistic for the McLaren Maestro, who I believe that was just ahead of Concept 7. Either that or there's 2 McLarens going full force as Adam Sanderson, in fact, at the end of the lap, just using as much curb as he dares and pushing it to the right ragged edge as Lenz the Goat is already out and he's crashed straight into the barrier at the edge of the last corner. Adam Sanderson, that won't deter him though. Across the line he goes, and it is provisional pole Only 17 thousandths of a second at the moment separate the McLaren man and the Ferrari faithful. Already, that's an indication of how fine the margins are going to be.
This is going to be tight, everybody. Watch out come the end of this qualifying session. People are going to have to be on the money until the very last gasp, because one tiny mistake on that final flying lap of this quali session could leave you 4, 5, maybe even more places further down the grid than you should be. Interesting one from Lenz the Goat, has to be said. Obviously just slammed it into the wall coming through the final corner. The definition of unideal. And Matt 2-on-2 asking something similar. How do you bin it at Qatar? I'd love to know that one.
Many questions, many answers to find, and we will find them hopefully for you within the next 2 hours as we watch the Williams of Gwatz. He's back. Glory to Grove, and maybe even glory to Gwatz, depending on how he's feeling around the Losail circuit. And I will reveal, he was one of these racing line couples. He sets a purple Sector 1, cutting the beam and just blazing up the rear tyres out of the left-hander. He's one of our no racing line users who would have been very happy indeed about having Qatar as a track. Guess what? Christmas has come early. Halloween is already put in the past, and now already the gifts are raining in for Mr. Gwatz.
100%. Halloween might have been yesterday, hoping that he's not going to get spooked, though, by the fact that he doesn't have the Rainbow Snake to try and guide him round the circuit. Foot flat to the floor through the final sector, though, through the sweeps. Turn right, chucking corners at your left, right and centre, apart from the left, of course. And then the left comes to the penultimate corner. Very close, playing it with fire with those track limits coming through the penultimate corner. This has been fairly decent, though, from Gwatz. You mentioned it, fastest in the first sector, pulling gears up to the line now. That Williams should be fairly decent around this track. In the 22s, though, not a great final sector, actually. Looking at the telemetry, 22.5 for our former F2 race winner.
It's Karim 70, though, the other man on a mission. 70 in P17 in the championship at the moment. And we'll talk about Karim a little bit here. Of course, our Season 9 champion in the Creator Series. Got a couple of wins last season as well with the racing line. It's all been a little bit trickier since then. Of course, that's to be expected when you don't have the racing line. But he's still shown flashes of absolute phenomenal pace. I mean, think back to Singapore, second in the sprint race, pole position that came almost out of absolutely nowhere. He's clearly got pace in the wheelbarrow full, but he's got the Mercedes car now. He's surely got to make it count today.
100%. Consistency has been key, and he's been missing those keys, it has to be said. Struggled to unlock the door of the performance that he had in those previous 2 seasons, that he was part of the F1 Creator Series and challenging for the championship. Decent lap so far, though. Purple in the middle sector by a couple of tenths, so this should see him right at the sharp end. Matched also the fastest first sector time. Are we seeing the resurgence here of Karim 17, looking for a second pole position of the season, and takes it by a couple of tenths, a quarter of a second. And if you look at the margins just behind, that is a decent whack of time. Scotty Designs over the line on a 29.3. Not particularly speedy there for Scotty. Comset 7, it has to be said as well, might be on an outlap, but does have the fastest first sector in his back pocket. So watch out for last week's pole sitter looking to go back-to-back.
Does indeed. Absolutely flying as the Ferrari man. Here's another Ferrari faithful, though. Another Italian stallion, Ricciardo, looking to try and claim back his pole position. And Bananarama is going through the double right-hander in a matter of moments' time. Absolutely casual and trying to cut every single apex as much as possible. And I thought that was a step too far, and he might well have been a step too far, but he's carrying on and pushing to the limit regardless. Concept 7 as well, I can confirm, we have just revealed it here in real time in the Creator Series. Santa is a Ferrari fan, because that is what Concept 7 is dressed like tonight.
Right colour, has to be said. Datkovic popping up into second place there in the Alpine car. Another member of that 121.8 club. 8 milliseconds faster than Adam Sands. The Mercedes gets out of the way for Ricciardo. Will he be just disturbed by the turbulence of the car in front of him going through this final sector? It looks fairly decent for the Banana Man at the moment, looking to power all the way to Venus in this Scarlet Ferrari car. Just 2 more corners to negotiate. Fairly decent lap so far. Formula Kai into the 21.6s, 700ths of a second down on his former namesake, Formula Cream, now to Formula 70. As that, Cream 70 I should say, as the McLaren put me off there by absolutely bottling it out of the final corner. I think Ricky was ever so slightly put off by that.
Yeah, Matt 2-on-2 peeling into the pits as well. It's synchronised pit entry between the two of them. Concept 7, though, well on his way. A very competitive first sector from the Ferrari man. A couple of attempts down on what the benchmark is for pole position in the middle, but he's still taking loads of curb on the inside. Got a decent bit of a toe as well as he makes his way to the line. A first podium, not a first pole position at the moment, and those margins are getting closer and closer. Just 3 attempts separating 1st to 8th place. Expect that to compress even more as Chris will be next to cross the line. Chris Cross will want to make you jump, but will he leap up the order as much as possible? That's the question. The front end not complying as much as he would have hoped for, perhaps. Just didn't quite get the bite into the corner. Still into P7, though, and 1 millisecond away from Ricky 03. Ridiculous.
So close, isn't it, Ben? We're looking at his average point scoring there. 15.6. Very, very nice indeed. But this is his teammate, Tim McMahon, at 22.1. That'll be a little bit concerning for the former two-time champion. Only 10th place as it stands. His teammate Meraki, not particularly quick in the middle sector, and slots only a couple of tenths and 1 position in front. Alarm bells ringing, perhaps, for the drivers that are 1st and 4th in the championship. And there's Razin Chai, 2nd in the standings. He's only P11.
It's me. Well, the slower machinery putting the sword to some of the top, well, pretty much all of the top 4 in the championship. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a response Alex Gillen has to that equation. Not that it's affecting the likes of Formula Kai that much, though. He's right in the thick of things for pole position at the moment in what is one of the slowest cars in the pecking order. As there's the McLaren for you. There's your dinner. Adam Sanderson, left, right, good night. Nearly a 10th ahead of the competition, of course, in that McLaren. Cutter Lucas also improves. Only P10, though. What is now 4.5 tenths between, well, pole position and Meraki down to P12, because Lolinoba now is into the 21s as well. A 21.934, and once again, we'll keep talking about it. Those qualifying margins are just compressing and condensing even more as Fabio holds another unenviable record here in the Creator Series, the title for the driver with the most entries without a race win. That's 116 entries, and don't worry guys, I'm not going to comment.
I will. 1,084 days. That's poor from yourself, Fabio. Is he a decent car? The only problem is, currently P20, yet to get a representative time on the board. Bailing out of that lap. Look at how close it is still, though, with, like you said, Adam Sanderson lowering the benchmark even further. Safso, decent first set, but invalidating out there. That's going to be catching a few drivers out as well. Like we saw a week ago in Mexico, a lot of big names down the order. 3 of the top 4 in the championship, not particularly close to being inside the top 10, it has to be said. Alex Gillen yet to get a representative time on the board as well.
Week where the pendulum could viciously swing out of their favour. On board with Gwatz then, gets the front end bit into the second corner very nicely indeed. Makes his Creator Series return today. We very gladly welcome back Gwatz to the fray, to the crazy gang, as he makes his way through the double right-hander and really using the curbs to full effect. That's a 10th and a half up just through the first sector for the Williams driver. Plant on the power as much as possible, and he's just getting a bit more comfortable with every single lap here. Of course, that track is evolving all the time as well, and a clear track so he doesn't get disrupted, but we are very rapidly getting very close to crunch time.
Running out of sync, perhaps. If he doesn't have enough fuel loaded on that Williams car, this might be the last we see of Gwatz in this qualifying session. So this is very much going to have to count. Another improvement in the middle sector, tracking fairly nicely. The problem for him is Adam Sanderson absolutely blitzed the first sector, a 30 flat miles quicker than anybody else has managed so far, with the exception of Scotty Designs, by the way, who's only half a tenth down. So pressure on a lot of drivers. Rounding the final corner we go with Gwatz, pulling gears up to the line. The Mercedes engine screaming. Is it a 21? Just about nestled inside the top 10. 21.9, ever so close. Look at it, from Lolinoba down to Cutter Lucas, 13 milliseconds.
And 3 milliseconds between P10 and Mr. Cutter Lucas. On board with Safso for a brief moment here, as, well, it all gets very interesting as we see Matt 212 now in the McLaren. This is where it all just, you can just calm things down a little bit. Get ready for the atmosphere to ramp up as we are into the darkness of night. Who will set the timing sheets alight? Through the final corner goes the McLaren man. DRS open, maximum flappage. This is it. This is when they have to make it count.
3.5 tenths separating the Papaya cars. Piling down towards turn 1, total commitment again from the number 2 McLaren car. Little bit wide, trying to carry as much speed as he dares. A little bit of a tail wag as well as he exploits all of the track that he possibly can. Not sure if he's invalidated, looking a little bit pedestrian there through 3 and charging up to 4 and 5. This is where we're really going to test how confident you are, not in just the front end, but the rear end of that Papaya McLaren car as well. Looked fairly nice for Matt 212, and then heavy braking down to turn number 6. So easy just to lock the front left tyre and completely throw your lap in the nearest skip that you can find. We don't have the Delta at the moment, but looks fairly decent for Matt 212, if unspectacular.
I was going to say, you can always kind of tell from an exterior point of view if it looks fast. It usually is fast. Matt 212 just keeping it clean and keeping it compliant. The crucial thing is not to overextend those track limits, which is so easy to do round a track like this. Here, though, one of my favourite sequence of corners on F125. You just plant your foot flat to the floor all the way. 1, 2, 3, the triple threat. And if you're feeling brave, make it 4 as well. Through the left-hander. So much mechanical grip on the Papaya Pro as he rounds the final corner for his final flying lap. Here in qualifying, Matt 212 crosses the line, and it's only P8. It's not an improvement either. 8 thousandths down. What does his teammate have to respond with, though?
Pressure, middle sector that he'd like to forget about very, very quickly. Terrible, I think, is being kind, it has to be said there, to Matt 212, leaving him 8th on the grid at best. Alex Gillen is only 16th at best. That Sauber not working well for the reigning champion. 22.27 tenths down on the leading Papaya McLaren that we are currently watching. Adam Sanderson has a little bit of time in his back pocket. He also has a bit of a slide at the rear of that Papaya McLaren car. Chris up into second place from absolutely nowhere, the Alpine, into the 21.5, 400ths of a second down. Is Adam Sanderson find the time he needs? He needs to find a little bit more, though, because Ricciardo 3 lowers that benchmark in the Scarlet Ferrari. Adam Sanderson was up by only 8 milliseconds.
It's not going to be enough. He has to have the last sector of his life in order to resuscitate his pole position dreams, using every single inch of track available to him as he rounds the final corner. The final dance for Adam Sanderson in Qatar qualifying. Karim goes to the front row. Adam Sanderson crosses the line, and it's P3. The quadruple factor of terribles being rained down from Bevan Dutler. An absolute horror show from the McLaren man on his final lap. Regardless, it will be the second row. Scotty Designs, by the way, 3 thousandths between him and the front of the second row. What a story that would have been, but what a story it is regardless. Ricciardo 3, the Ferrari faithful, has pole position, but the competition are not far behind.
And if we head to the back of the storybook, 5 former championships in the bottom 5 places. Alex Gillen 17th, Timo Malik 16th, Safso 19th, and Razin Chai is only a few places higher in 12th. This is a grid that I don't think a lot of us were expecting. Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Red Bull, the big 4 leading the first 2 rows on the grid. Then you've got Lolin Ober, former race winner, in P5. Chris and Datkovitz making that Alpine sing very nicely. The other RB in P8. Meraki just inside the top 10, the championship leader. His main rivals, absolutely nowhere. Tim Marnick and Alex Gillen, if they're next to each other on the grid, you'd imagine they're inside the top 5, 16th and 17th. Just Chappers, Safso, and Lenz the Goat, who retired very early in the session behind them.
Well. Cutthroat qualifying session. TK, what do you think of that one?
Well, I think it was certainly one that there's a few creators maybe out of position compared to where they traditionally expect themselves to be. We've got to talk about Sanderson on the second row, lining up in third alongside our very own Scotty Designs, by the way. Who would have expected that second row?
Well, quite indeed. And like I say, only 3 thousandths. That was how fine the margins were and continue to be. It's immense how close it was out there in Qatar. Exactly what we wanted to see, exactly what we thought was going to be spruced up, and so it proved to be, which is great to see. But of course, that first row as well, let's not forget, Ricciardo 3, pole position in F1 Creator Series.
Pole position powered by potassium. There we go. I think that's going to sum up his qualifying session as he gets himself ready to go racing. Karim 70, again, an old guard when it comes to qualifying here in the F1 Creator Series. One that we traditionally would expect to be up towards the front, even if we weren't, without his Rainbow Snake, he wasn't traditionally as fast as we kind of have over the last few seasons.
I think he'll be satisfied, but won't be ecstatic with that. Yes, he's on the front row. He's already taken a pole position in a much slower car this season, let's not forget, in that I'll be back at Singapore. And it was a pretty chunky gap back to second place as well. I think what's really interesting is no purple sectors for anybody inside the top 5, top 6 in fact. You have to get down to P7, which I think was Datgar Vince in the Alpine, fastest first sector. Infratic, who was 11th, had the fastest middle sector. That just shows you how closely compacted that qualifying session is. And like we had a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago I should say, in Mexico, so many big names towards the back of the pack. They're going to have to roll the dice to try and get themselves further forward. They wanted this track. It's not the easiest to overtake. They're going to have to try and do something different.
Wow, let's get ready to go racing in Qatar. We're in the middle of the desert, but we're not alone by ourselves. Carl Peranic and Tom Wilkinson taking you through it.
Thank you very much, Tom Knight. Well, what a talent it is for Tom Knight. A lot of Knights, of course, can only move 2 spaces in one direction before moving 1 in another. TK, though, has unshackled himself from that particular burden. What a superstar he is. What a race we have on our hands. I mean, look, if any indication, look at the top 10. And just to put it this way, 6 different teams in the top 6 is a ridiculous stat in and of itself. The first repeat you have, of course, is the Alpine duo. You then have Formula Kai in P8. But good qualifying by the V-Carbs, by the way, I thought. Very impressed by them, as Sanderson, again, just ruining his qualifying conundrums. And, well, you can say it as many times as he wants. It's not going to improve his race standing. And on P3 on the grid, he's thrown caution to the wind here, Tom. He's gone for the softs.
3 different teams inside the top 3. 3 different tyre compounds as well. Watch out for that McLaren. It's a speedy car anyway. It's going to be even faster in the opening stages. Cream 7T has taken a gamble, I think. Those hard tyres might take a couple of laps just to get them up to temperature into the working window. And if you remember back to earlier races this season and last, since we've had the hard tyres back in, it is commonplace for the drivers that start on the hards to leak a decent number of places in the opening couple of laps. Yes, this is a circuit where the front tyres in particular are worked very hard in the middle sector and the final sector in particular. If Kareem can get to lap 3 or 4, still be comfortably inside the top 5, he's got a great chance.
Absolutely. Kareem 7T statistic, only 1 top 10 finish in season 11. Of course, coming at Singapore, where he really did seem in tune with the car, with the track, with the theory of having no racing line available to him. The rainbow snakeless Kareem 7T did properly flourish in Singapore. Since then, it's been a bit of a slug out here in Qatar, though. Oh, how that could change. Second on the grid. Here's Meraki, though. He only subscribes to particular streamers. And apparently for legal reasons, we can't tell you who. What I can tell you, though, is... And... Oh, well, my mic cut out there. That's my... Well, I guess we'll never know who he subscribed to. That's a shame, Tom.
Well, the red tape I don't think would have allowed it. So we'll gloss over that, and I think you can concentrate less on the red tape, more on the red lights that are about to appear.
Here we go, then. Jules in the desert, about to go on. Ferrari on the right, Kareem 7T on the left. It's 5 red lights for the Creator Series in the desert. Lights out and away we go, and it looks like actually a good start for Kareem 7T initially, but we'll see the softer compounds get to work in immediate effect. Ricky 03 blazing through an Alpine, immediately cuts to the inside of Chris behind to look to displace Scotty Designs, and he does. Thunderous start from Meraki, already up to P6, but there's going to be plenty of squabbles as they try and navigate these first couple of corners. Ricky, though, sprinting into the distance. Sanderson did indeed get past Kareem 7T on his soft compounds. Excellent start from the McLaren man. Meraki and Lolinova still going into combat. CQC has been applied correctly by the championship leader, but contact behind its Concept 7 and a whole gaggle of cars. McLaren of Matt 212 stranded on the outside. He's out already. Matt 212 is out of Qatar after a few fleeting corners. Disaster for the Papaya Pro.
Well, I hate to be that guy, but I think he's thrown in the towel there slightly too early. Must have picked up Darrett and decided, well, that's it for my night. Gave up on it, and we weren't even halfway through the first lap. So that's one McLaren out. The second one did pick up a place. Kareem 17 was so aggressive on the grid. He was almost at 90 degrees as Gwatz with a 10-second penalty for corner cutting and gaining a place. That's an interesting one. That must have been at the kerfuffle we saw down into turn number 6. That is not good news at all. Incredible start, though, as we get green flag running once again for the Haas of Tim McMahon. Started from 16th up into 8th on this opening lap, albeit on the soft compound tyres. On the button straight away as our former 2-time champ.
Nearly caught me off guard, went straight under the radar, but up to P8 he goes. Avoided the chaos, exactly what he needs to do and exactly what he did with his wealth of experience. Round 2 then between Chris and Scotty Designs, and it's much, much easier for the Alpine driver. Up to P4 he goes. Great start from Riccio3 though as Lenz the go. Speeds into the pit lane, 3 drivers into pit row. After all of the contact and chaos at the hairpin just at the beginning of Sector 2. Riccio3 though, looking to sprint on clear, just over a second ahead, but Adam Sanderson is reeling him in.
It's incredibly contrasting fortunes, isn't it, for the 2 Ferrari cars. Riccio3, the red carpet's been rolled out for him to try and scamper off into the distance, although Adam Sanderson might have something to say about that. And Concept 7, on the other hand, well, he tried that reverse entry drift down to turn number 9. Very, very much sideways into the braking zone. Didn't work out particularly well and took a few cars with him as he tried a bit of Wii Sports bowling there on the opening lap. Razin, big name that must have picked up a bit of damage heading down pit road to get a new front wing, and that's going to put pay to any chances realistically in the first half of this race of challenging with some of his main championship rivals.
Concept 7, bit of bowling. Riccio3 striking gold currently at the front of the field. Gap under a second though. And this is where Sanderson has to use the best of his soft compound tyres. We look at Tiamat Marduk for the time being. This is the gaggle of cars we have. Kareem 7T, you said it yourself, Wilkinson. You said that it would be tricky for the hard compound tyres to find temperature, to find their proper pace until a couple of laps in, and Chris is going to make the most of it. Into turn number 1 potentially. We see behind an Aston Martin of Infratic getting very close indeed to that guy Vince. No move being made at the moment. DRS not proving as effective as perhaps some of them would have hoped. Still, those gaps get closer and closer.
The problem for Kareem as well is Chris, as we saw in the opening lap when he shot it down the inside of 3 or 4 cars, incredibly punchy under braking. That is going to put the Mercedes, who's already a little bit uncomfortable, into the braking zones because he doesn't have the Rainbow Snake at slight unease. There is Tiamat Marduk confident under brakes, so as he sends it down the inside of Lolinoba, once again on the money as Tiamat Marduk pushes that RB car down a further spot, up from 16th to 7th. 9 places gained in what is effectively 2.5 laps, considering the VSC period we had.
The American dream keeps on moving up. Highlighting, though, the man adorned in papaya. Adam Sanderson, 0.4 of a second between him and Riccio3. Looking to try and keep it as close as possible, but he'll get the effects of the dirty air. Through the triple right-hander, we have a time penalty for corner cutting. That right there is Concept 7 with a 3 seconds as he looks to try and make manoeuvres on Formula Kai. Through the final corner, sending the nose to the inside. Just to mark his statement of intent, looming large in the mirrors, and you'd have to say it's academic. It's surely going to be signed, sealed, and delivered for the McLaren man to the inside of turn number 1. Riccio3 not putting up much of a resistance into the corner, but brilliantly holds it round the outside instead. Marvellous retaliation from Riccio3 as the potassium-powered Ferrari Pro continues on his way, but Sanderson not done yet. Still showing the nose to the inside. Looks to try and throw the Ferrari off kilter. Not happening for the moment.
Got a nice reality check there, didn't he? It's the very, very low drag Ferrari car. We know it's very slippery in a straight line. Going to make it hard to overtake. Both Haas cars on the move. Meraki picks up a couple of spots. First of all with Scotty Designs. His teammate follows through there. And now Kareem 7T starting to tumble a little bit through the pack from second on the grid. Now running P5. Those hard tyres not working nicely. Interesting decision. I wonder if he could have gone for the softer compounds just to try and maintain track position, try and get into a rhythm because he's struggling so much with where to brake and where to turn in with the lack of racing line. As it stands, he's just going to be under the cosh time after time after time as there goes his former championship rival Tiamat Marduk punching him in the belly again.
Sort of piled off to the side there just to make sure he actually had a little bit of room to figure himself out, because that's where the main struggle has been. When he's been amongst the gaggle of cars, when it hasn't been smooth sailing and clear track ahead of him, he's just struggled to find his rhythm as that guy Vince behind gets through on Lolinoba. Nice juicy battle. They're still side by side. Out of the final corner, a drag race between the V-Carb and the Endstone outfit towards turn number 1. Who dares to burn more battery? Whose car can cut through the air beautifully? More battles between Riccio3 and Adam Sanderson as the Ferrari man just once again delightfully defends. A little bit closer though is the Papaya Pro, looking to try and find manoeuvres left, right and centre to the nose to the inside. But contact made with the diffuser, and that will lose all of the momentum he had once garnered up.
Yeah, I feel like that was impatience personified there for Adam Sanderson. He wasn't really in that fight. I mean, you're a brave man to send it down the inside into turns 4 and 5 when you're not alongside heading into the braking zone. I think you just could have played that a little bit smarter. Lon and Oberon and Infratic still sinking their teeth into one another. It's the Aston Martin on the outside. Should be faster through the middle sector, but is an absolute boat in a straight line. So Fabio wants to get this one done. Turns to the inside and disposes of our Italian stand. Have you put him in his back pocket firmly? The answer is very much yes. The door slammed in the face of the Italian man. It's Portugal 1, Italy 0. That's the scoreline of the battle for 9th and 10th.
Good move there from Infratic. Concept 7 joining the back of the train as well. We ride on board though with Tiamat Marduk. What a start of the race it's been. Make that 11 places gain so far this race. An absolutely tremendous tear on the competition, but you can see the tyres complaining already as the rear end slides hopelessly out of the final corner. No battery to play with either. He's giving it absolutely everything to keep up. Meraki and Tiamat Marduk on those same soft compound tyres. Scotty designed, by the way, also on the softs. But you have to wonder how long it will be until they start feeling the pain and the shame, while others brilliantly find some gains out of their tyres. Riccio 3, his defence on the medium tyres could well tell the tale for the context of the rest of his race if he can keep up that solid work he's doing against the McLaren behind.
And you feel like that's Adam Sanderson maybe just running out of opportunity there. That could explain why he was a little bit desperate to try it on the previous lap into turn 4, because he knew that maybe he's running out of chances. Those soft tyres start to degrade and fall very much past their best. This is where Kareem needs to be headstrong. Just know, okay, these hard tyres eventually are going to come back to me. The two Hasses first on the hit list are going to start struggling very, very shortly. And look at Meraki just struggling to cling on to the coattails of Chris, who's holding P3 very nicely in that Alpine car, under no pressure at all from Jake behind. Adam Sanderson still cruising up to the back of the Ferrari once more. Knows now that Ricky's fast in a straight line and uncompromising into the braking zones as well. So he's just going to have to get his elbows out a little bit harder without, of course, ruining his and the Italian man's race.
Saw the car wiggling out of the triple right-hander as he just looks to plant the power on that little bit earlier, to burn the battery that touch sooner. DRS once again wide open, using the off-track surfaces as much as he can for a slightly smoother ride. Perhaps he would want to try the outside occasionally. Again, he'll persist. Persistence, does it pay off? Sapso's left the session. That is devastation. I think still they remain side by side as they emerge from behind the grandstands. They do. This time Sanderson's off alongside, and this time it's the lead of the Qatar Grand Prix. Once was nice, twice was nicer, but he's done it thrice. Through into the lead finally, and now with clear air, can he escape?
4, 5 laps coming potentially there. We'll see how much life and how much bounce is left in the soft compound tyres. Not sure who that ginger person was that was joined, but Papaya is the orange colour that we very much want to focus on here. Trying to put some distance now between himself and Ricky. Just leave that Ferrari scrabbling for grip in the wake and in the turbulence, the dirty air of that Papaya McLaren car. 1.6 seconds still back to the Alpine of Chris. Equidistant really in that DRS train behind. You have to go back to Alex Gillen in 13th to find a car that's not really 4, 5, 6 tenths per second off the back of the driver in front. So if these two can just play it smart, maybe Ricky can just say, okay, Adam, I see where you're coming from. Just use a little bit of your pace now, and maybe we can work together and just put a nice little gap between ourselves and the group behind. That will, though, be a warning there for Ricky as he, well, threw it off the track pretty much through the penultimate corner. Sad Safso noises, different week, same disconnection problems for our Season 1 champion. And Kareem 17 will be delighted to know that he has managed to stem the flow. Is now just starting to study the rear geometry of that Haas car in front of him a little bit stronger.
Our tyres coming into a bit of their own. Meanwhile, Safso ruining it. It's Riccio 3 going back into the lead of this Grand Prix. And so he does. 1.5 tenths. Make that the lead in outright. Excellent from Riccio 3, and you are talking about the DRS swapping. It might well have been a little bit of the dark arts, a defence against the dark arts even, as Chris is closing up now on his mediums little by little. He's a speedy boy on F125, and he's proving it here. A few tenths just in those first couple of corners, while he looks to provide and apply that pressure as much as possible. Safso looking for some resuscitation from the Philosopher's Stone, perhaps.
Yes, Scotty Designs also needs his race to be resuscitated a little bit, down into P8, maybe P9. He's staunchly holding on to that 8th place at the hands of Infratic. The Aston Martin desperately trying to take it away from him. I think Fabio has been successful in muscling his way past our mean Lord King, but look at the gap Was it wise, Ricky and Adam Sanderson battling so hard? Because Chris and everybody else in the trailing DRS train now reasserting themselves in this leading battle. It's no longer an exclusive club of 2. It's a club of, 14 drivers in this lead snake.
Bonkers, absolutely bonkers, under the floodlights, lap number 8, here in Qatar, and 2 turns to 14, 7 times the fun here in Creator Series, as DRS once again wide open for Adam Sanderson. Does he try and make a move into turn number 1? Shows the nose to the inside, but just not enough of a braking zone or confidence to provide him with that extra impetus. Ricky 03 holds on to the lead for now. Chris, all he has to do, I fear, for these 2 up ahead, is he just needs to bide his time. He's had clear air this whole time. He hasn't been battling hard or having to use it or expend his tyres as much as possible. Now he has slightly more advantage, perhaps, in the rubber that he has applied to the Alpine car, and he can just squeeze on the pressure every single corner, little by little. Meanwhile, that guy, Vince, just dropping out of DRS briefly. The 14 car train might be 6.
Could be crucial if that secondary group decide they want to disembark from the lead DRS train. Vincent had a decent middle sector though, getting himself back into contention. Adam Sanderson, he's in a McLaren this week. Who's giving him that car? Well, he's making work of that Papaya car, but we are seeing he's a little bit jittery. He fancies it down the inside into the S's. The sweeps of the final sector, barging past Ricky 03 as Chris, spooked by that, falls off the circuit. We said Halloween was yesterday, but he was the one that was troubled by what was going on in front of him. I feel like I was about to say, and he's almost pulled me up on there, Adam Sanderson looking a little bit jittery there, it has to be said, in this race. Remember, in this top 3, only 1 podium finish between them, no race victories, and that podium for Ricky was only a few weeks ago in Monaco, so they're fighting for something they haven't got that much experience in. Into the pits comes Scotty Designs, had enough of those soft compound tyres. Ricky fancies it again, back around the outside of turn 1, putting some manners again on the McLaren of Adam Sanderson, saying, get back behind me. I wasn't a fan of that into the final few corners. Meraki sternly examining the Alpine as well, ducking this way, and that and Chris, for the time being at least, will hold on to 3rd place.
Excellent stuff once again. Brilliant racing. Meraki is now getting himself right into the thick of things as well. Just getting closer and closer. Can open the door for Tiamat Marduk though. He's just closed in a little bit. Has to defend the inside. Just a smidge as Sanderson says, what wings are you running, Sir Ricky 03? We know the Ferrari can cut through the air like a hot knife through butter. But that was elementary. That was absolute child's play for Ricky 03, who made Adam Sanderson look like he was standing still.
Bit of race IQ there as well. Adam knew there was a DRS straight coming up, and now maybe he's feeling that, I can't get past in a straight line. I've got to do it in unorthodox places, and just lacking a little bit of confidence in the car that's underneath him. So interesting to see how that dynamic pans out over the next 15 to 20 laps. The 2 Haas cars have been watchful in 4th and 5th at the moment. Tiamat Marduk hasn't really been under any pressure from Kareem 17, who is starting to get into that rhythm. Those hard tyres working nicely as well. He'll be trying to play the long game, of course. Will our former champion, currently holding P6, needs to be careful of that Govins that's still hot on his heels in 7th position as well. And Fabio, we've seen very racy so far, trying to use that Aston Martin downforce to good effect. Will be slow in a straight line, but in that middle sector going to be absolutely electric.
Here he goes, DRS wide open again to look to try and retaliate. It's not going to happen though. Chris, I'm just seeing him pull out of the slipstream a little bit. We saw a lot of drivers have trouble with this as well, particularly when you're in the driver's seat. A lot of drivers having trouble with engine temperature in the slipstream. That's the caveat of being in the DRS train. Perhaps that's why Adam Sanderson, like you say, was looking so jittery, because clear air is absolutely king. You want to have as good of an engine as possible to give yourself the best chance, because if you just overcook it a little bit more, Kareem 17 just getting a bit trigger happy on the brake pedal despite using a wheel. Shut up, I know what I'm talking about, all right? 6th place at the moment for the man on the hard tyres, and they are just coming into a bit of a realm of their own here as Tiamat Marduk really starting to struggle out of DRS.
We're going to have to burn a little bit of battery there. We've got it back this week, and just trying to get back to within a decent range of his teammates. Still hovering in the danger zone ever so slightly, but I have to say I was wincing there when Kareem locked the rears, and I thought he was going to loop it round in a very lazy and languid fashion and drop from P6 all the way to the back of this DRS train that still holds 13 cars. Gwatson and Alex Gillen at the tail of it. Haven't spoken a lot really about the reigning champion. Been very quiet so far on his set of the White Stripe hard compound tyres. We saw Gillen use those hard tyres to very good effect a week ago. Took a little bit of time, but then once they started to sing, he was absolutely rapid and very decisive in where he made his overtakes work. Two of the slowest cars in the straight line, the Alpine and the Aston Martin, potentially doing battle with the Mercedes in front, which equally is not that slippery in a straight line. And they remain fairly equidistant. You can just see their cream still a little bit wobbly going through turns 1 and turn 2. You can see they're not quite as smooth as the likes of Tyrrell, Mark Datkovic and Infrati. Now that is part of his driving style, of course. He likes to be aggressive, Fernando Alonso style, really hustling the car on turn and getting the nose to bite. That does tend to work the tyres a little bit hard as well, as we have seen in his short, albeit successful, Creator Series career.
Talk strategy quickly while we're on the subject of ragging the car around and pushing the tyres to the limit. Of course, Scotty Designs has got off his soft compound tyres pretty much as quickly as possible. So Adam Sanderson still has decent pace on the softer compound, maybe courtesy of being in the DRS train and just keeping it consistent with the car he has underneath him. A lot of people probably committed to a 2-stop today. Safety cars permitting. I mean, listen, we're not saying anything, but it probably will happen. Safety cars permitting, it's probably a 2-stop, most likely. Maybe that's why some have gone on the hard tyres, just to get that pain out of the way, and then have the faster compounds available to them later. Adam Sanderson, though, he's got the fastest lap of the race so far, and he's using that soft compound tyre once again. Look how close he is, showing the nose again to the inside of the final corner. Ricciardo nowhere near flying off piste though. He looks cool as a cucumber out in front.
But it's so untidy though, wasn't it? In the wrong gear coming through the final corner. Big whack of oversteer as well, and that means that into turn 1, he's nowhere near the Ferrari. Now, whether he just wants to sit and wait and baby those soft compound tyres at this stage of the race, that will be we'll have to wait and see, because he was looking like he fancied it down the inside into the final corner. We're hearing from TK, who's operating not just as presenter but in Clipbook Corner as well, technically the pundit. 40% on his tyres. I don't think the softs are that terrible a race tyre if, and it's a big if, you can keep the temperatures, especially those front tyres, under control. Otherwise you're going to be understeering like an absolute boat. Adam Sanderson seems to have kept those tyre temperatures under control at this stage, which means he can continue to try and be aggressive at this stage of the race.
Give an idea of the disparity as well. His left front's on 40%, right front tyre only 19% wear. Absolutely crazy, but that is the dynamic of the Losail circuit, ladies and gentlemen, as we are interlocked in a big battle in combat at the front of the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, make that 13 cars in the lead DRS train, all varying in terms of performance, all varied in terms of team types, and all varied in terms of success stories in the Creator Series. For some, it's an outstanding opportunity waiting to be grabbed by the horns. For others, they've seen success plenty of time. They just want to return to the top step and properly make a charge for the championship. Again, Adam Sanderson not getting the best exit out of the final corner. But perhaps, like you say, perhaps that's the game plan. Just to baby the soft tyres. He knows that if he stays in the DRS and Chris can't get close enough due to the dirty air, he'll sit pretty in P2 and carry those soft tyres quite a long way.
And this is where we are seeing is Cream 17 battling away with Tim Mark, and he has managed to punch the Haas back down into P6. I saw it was closely following down into turn number 1. Ben may have been slightly wide through 1 and 2. The door opened for the former champion. They obviously battled in Season 9 when Cream did pick up his one and only Creator Series crown to date, and he's put some manners on the driver that tried to take that championship away from him. So back up into P5, those hard tyres, you would imagine, better than the soft at this stage after 14. That's a flat-out running in the dirty air as well. Will we see Cream start to just slowly but surely pick them off one by one and get himself back inside the top 3? I was going to say at this stage, you're seeing a lot of drivers just trying to dig in, getting into the trenches, just trying to preserve the tyres, maybe save a little bit of fuel as well to prevent any melodramatic moments in the back half of this race. Battle going on way back, by the way, between Safso and Chappers. The Williams had disposed of the Red Bull, but Chappers fancying it down the inside, chucked it down the inside and pushed the Season 1 champion back down into P15. Both of them with penalties looming over their head. Not ideal at all. They're going to continue to scrap it out into the final few corners now. I think the Red Bull's going to fall off the circuit, just about keeping it on the track. Safso with a big fishtail coming through turn number 14, and eventually the Season 1 champion, who previously, and this is a really interesting discussion actually, was known for being quite passive in battle, looking very feisty there, as is Adam Sanderson, still trying to make those soft tyres work, still fancying his chances of taking the lead, but it's Ricciardo once again, bit of deja vu that hangs it all the way around the outside.
The momentum he picks up mid-corner, absolutely ridiculous, but in other crucial news in the context of their race, Chris out of DRS for the time being. So great news for them. In the world of Kareem 7T, by the way, it would have been a very big case of no luck catching them Hasses then. Well, it was just the one Haas, actually, and I've already got him. Next Haas on the chopping block. is Mr. Meraki. 4 tenths the gap is hovering at between the Mercedes man and the American Dream, who we ride on board with now. Chris, the target up ahead in the Alpine car, has had his ebbs and flows in this race, but has been constantly gorilla glued to the DRS of the front two. And it's Kareem 17, the big man on the move at the moment. Vince coming forward on the radio and saying Ben's soft tyres look absolutely toast.
You can see the pickup there on Meraki's front left as well. These soft tyres starting to get abused a little bit as they desperately try to cling on to any grip that they possibly can. Hearing that Ben up to 50% on his front left, so pretty much halfway through those tyres. Yes, they would most likely explode before you get to the 100% mark. So people just going to be starting to think about, when do you pull the trigger? When do you bite the bullet, get a fresh set of boots on and try and undercut some of these drivers in this DRS train? Adam Sanderson is now close to Chris in P3 than he is to Riccio 3 out in front. Ben could be under the cosh here because Datkovic's gaining into the braking zone of turn one. Both Haas cars struggling on their soft compound tyres. Now grappling for grip. Kareem dancing around the outside, fancied it. But Meraki staunch in his defence and holding on to fourth place for the time being. We're starting to see a more feisty version of Kareem 17. Is he coming back to the front, round the outside of turn 4? Don't mind if I do. Meraki has the ascendancy and the high road to just hold Kareem at arm's length for the time being.
See how much more pace the hard compound tyres have. It's to the inside. Goes Kareem 17. Looked a little bit like he was going to lose the rear end, but kept the car compliant. And a crucial move from the Season 9 champion up to P4 has disposed of both Haas cars on those soft compound tyres. And the Haas is going to battle between themselves. The hard compound tyres looking to be in a realm of their own now. The podium positions next up on the list.
Meraki actually did very, very well there. You have to say he saw Kareem coming, slightly out of control version of Kareem coming down the inside, just opened the steering wheel, allowed it to happen, made sure there wasn't any contact there. Yes, he gave up the place. Was he going to lose it anyway? I think he probably was. Safso's been thrown into the abyss, by the way. You can see the yellow flags out in the middle sector. Not good news for our Season 1 champion. He's going to drop about 7, 8, maybe 9 seconds off the back of Chappers in front in a Red Bull sandwich. Diving into the pits comes our former 2-time champion to dispose of those very, very old soft compound tyres.
Let's see what tyres he's going to select in his conquest for the front of the field. We'll see where he comes out in context, or where Scotty Designs, by the way, currently is as well. That guy Vince, therefore, has already picked up a position from one Haas car because he's moved nicely out of the way. So now Meraki, who's lost DRS, 2 to 3 cars ahead of him because Adam Sanderson now also struggling on his soft compound tyres, which comes as no surprise to all of us here in the commentary box. We look to Kareem 17, though, who's just reeling in, Chris. Little by little. Ebbs and flows. That's the best way to describe this race. Once the momentum's in your favour, it moves mountains. We're hearing, by the way, that Safso went wide and then tyre hooked with Chappers, spat straight out into the gravel. So devastation for the man who's driving for the Grove-based team. Tiamat Marduk, by the way, 4 seconds ahead of Scotty Designs. So a good stint on the softs for the Haas driver.
100%. And he's got a lovely bit of free real estate to drive into, courtesy, of course, of that Safso mistake. Just about was spat out of the pits ahead of his former McLaren Creator Series teammate, and now can really work at those tyres, bring them in nicely, and see how many places he can make up. How strong the undercut truly is. Obviously, has got the fresh air and the fresh tyres. The trade-off, of course, is that he's not getting the advantage of DRS. Adam Sanderson reacting to another one of Tiamat Marduk's, or he is another one of Tiamat Marduk's former teammates. He pulls the trigger into the pits a lap later. Nobody else fancies joining him down pit road. We're going to see the strength of that undercut now. Will it be Haas or will it be McLaren in the ascendancy by the time Sanderson rejoins the road?
Will be an interesting one indeed. Hard compound tyres for Adam Sanderson. It was mediums strapped on to Benjamin Daly's Haas cars. He makes his way through. There he is in the bottom right of your picture. Foot planted flat to the floor. No DRS, of course, but he'll be burning every single morsel of battery. And he'll close right to the back of Adam Sanderson, the man that was in P2. So that's how much Tiamat Marduk has gained on those fresh tyres. The undercut proving immensely powerful. But perhaps that's a 2-stop in the game plan. Adam Sanderson committed, quite possibly, and, well, probably quite rightly, to that 1-stop strategy, barring safety cars. And that would be a very bold call indeed.
It does leave him a little bit exposed here, though, to the pace that you would imagine Tiamat Marduk has in his back pocket in that Haas car. 3-second penalty handed out to Gwatz, who's still the car at the back of that DRS train that has started to disperse ever so slightly. Chris 2 seconds off the leader, Ricciardo 3, and then a further 1.5 seconds separating Kareem and Meraki in 3rd and 4th respectively. I think Meraki might react to his teammate in the not too distant future. We'll just stay on board with the Alpine, he said Haas, the Alpine of Dak Govins, to see whether the Season 4 champion fancies a fresh set of boots. And the answer is very much yes. He dives into the pit lane, and we'll see where he is now in relation to Adam Sanson and Timo Marduk.
Here's Kareem 70, DRS wide open, and it's not even close. It's elementary, dear Watson. A simply scintillating race so far. Now that the hard tyres have kicked into gear, Kareem 70 is well on his way. Ricciardo 3, the next target up the road, and Lolin over. Keep an eye out on him as well, on board with the Italian Stallion. We're hearing Concepts mediums are on 58% after only 19 laps of this race. So the medium tyres even, I was going to allude to the fact that guy Vince's mediums, particularly on the front left, had loads of pickup on them as well. So they're feeling the pain as well, and the hard tyres have everything to gain. Already, Kareem 70 breaks DRS, and now is going to hunt down Ricciardo 3.
Big problems, Jonathan Ledgard problems for Meraki. He's come out of the pits 2.5 seconds off the back of Ben and Adam Sanson. That is alarm bells that they're going to be ringing for the Season 4 champion, having to work all by his lonesome in this stint. Adam Sanson's got the chariot of the Haas in front of Tim. In order to drag him along, Jake's going to have to do it with his own pace and his own pace only.
One Haas has cleared the McLaren car. Timo Marduk made his way through as well. On our telemetry screen, just to break the fourth wall for a second here, Adam Sanderson is showing up as Hunter in just 6 characters. Hunter. However, the Hunter very much turning the hunted as Meraki looks to try and hunt him down. He too has gone on to the medium compound tyres. So both Hasses looking to make the most of the faster compound of tyres as Lolin Ober sends the nose to the inside. That guy Vince leaves the room. Plenty of racing respect from the Alpine driver. Keeps the position for the moment. The momentum in his favour. But how much longer can he put this up as fastest lap of the race for Timo Marduk? What was 25.9 now cut down by 0.7 of a second, putting those new mediums to great use.
He'll be leading Meraki purple in the face because he's now 4 seconds clear of his teammate. Remember, Jake was the lead Haas before Ben came into the pits. Now 4 seconds between them. Timo Marduk is absolutely flying at this stage, and Adam Sanson is doing a very, very commendable job to cling onto the coattails of that Haas in front of him. Lolin Ober, it was interesting, wasn't it, into turn 1. Felt a little bit indecisive, a little bit tentative, just sort of dangled the nose of that RB car down the inside of Dak Govins. Vince, luckily for Lolly, saw him coming and left the space, but that's the kind of move where we can see drivers just start to trip over one another.
Absolutely we can. He'll go for the second attempt though. So nice. He'll do it twice on board with Lolin Ober in the V-Carb car. Has kind of gone under the radar in my opinion, as Lolin Ober has been very, very, very good with the realistic cars and proving so once again today here in the V-Carb. Got into the top 5, of course, in Mexico in the Williams, but now from the team from Faenza, how fierce are you feeling with DRS? ERS applied, battery to burn, ascend to the outside perhaps? No, that guy Vince defends the inside, putting his car in all the right places, and Lolly with no answer at the moment.
Wasn't brave enough under braking around the outside. There was a little bit of a gap for Lolly to try and plant that RB car to the left of the Alpine into turn 1. Didn't fancy it though. And that keeps him in 5th place and keeps him frantic, hot on his heels as well. Team radio from Timo Marduk. We don't want Jake to get into our DRS. We have to run. He's running very, very quickly. The gap has come down by about half a second. Now 3.5 seconds separating the 2 Haas cars. The gap that is important, the number that's important though, is between Sanderson and Meraki, which is coming down a little bit. Has Ben burn up the best of those tyres just a little bit too soon? And are we going to see Jake come back into the fray?
Probably to save a bit of battery as well after he absolutely eviscerated the fastest lap of the race. It was 0.6 of a second Meraki gained on to the 2 cars ahead of him, so he's now making the most of his medium tyres and continuing to do so. At the top 10, no one has pit just yet. A couple of others that made pit stops earlier on in the race after chaos on lap number 1 at the beginning of Sector 2 that saw Matt 212 bow out of the Qatar Grand Prix. His first DNF in the Creator Series and in a McLaren car. What a bitter pill to swallow. Highlighting this man at the moment, Concept 7, as a couple of drivers peel into the pit lane. Chris in the Alpine, that is, who peels into pit row to get off of his medium compound tyres. Kareem 70 though, the hard compound tyres, the Havoc Wreaker. He's into the lead, and with no racing line, with no Rainbow Snake to assist him, he is annihilating the competition at the moment.
And that was the easiest you like, wasn't it? Bread and butter into turn number 1. And crucially, look at the gap this pair have got. You'd imagine Ricky might be making his way into the pits very shortly, but they're 4 seconds pretty much ahead of Dak Gavitz. And crucially, that has Lolin Ober on the hard tyres in that train, Formula Car on the hard tyres, and Alex Gillen, who's still mired in the midfield, P8 at the moment for the reigning champion. Just going to have to think about things, Alex Gillen, at this stage. No alarm bells need to be rung just yet, but if he just continues to get stuck in this train of cars, will we see Alex Gillen fighting for the race win in about 30 laps' time?
Quite possibly. Patience is a virtue. He proved it in Mexico in a lot of ways, did Alex Gillen, that just had to play the waiting game a tiny bit, and you would just be put in the proper position. Meanwhile, Kareem 70 and Ricky 03 running away